Hello, I'm Darren Hardy, entrepreneur mentor and publisher of Success Magazine, and I want to welcome you to Insane Productivity. This is a 12-part series on how to achieve extreme levels of personal productivity. This is where you'll learn to produce insane results, insanely fast, sanely. Welcome to Module 4. So, how did you do with your half-dozen key strategies homework assignment last week? If you did it, I bet you can already see a significant uptick in your results. And hopefully, if you're truly playing full out and doing the work, a dramatic decrease in time, energy, and the stress you are needing to invest to get those results. If not, now is the time to step up your participation. We are about to tackle the biggest productivity crippler there is out there. One that, in fact, is a myth in itself. We believe we are doing it, but we aren't, and attempting to do so is killing us. What is the myth? It is multitasking. Let me have you do an exercise that I did with the audience during the summit. Just do it with me here. It is fast and simple, so just do it. Here we go. Out loud, count from 1 to 10 as fast as you can, okay? Go. Are you done? How fast was that? Now, say the alphabet from A to J as fast as you can. Are you ready? Go. Fast, right? Now I want you to combine them, like A1, B2, etc. through J10. Ready? Go. I can hear you struggling, right? How did the experience feel? Well, let's rejoin the summit and talk about it. All right, number 4 of the 4 productivity crushing addictions is multitasking. And this is a big one. Oh, this is going to defy a lot of the conditioning you've had up to this point in our American culture as well. First of all, multitasking is a myth. It is impossible. You actually cannot mentally and effectively multitask. The human need that is being preyed upon here is I am capable, I am worthy, I am superwoman, superman, I am important. Okay? Let's do a quick little exercise. Now, this is the only time you actually have to interact with your neighbors. You don't have to touch them. There's no massaging involved. This will be over quickly. This will not become too weird, I promise. I just want you to pick an A and a B. Decide who's A, who's B, A, B, A, B, A, B. Okay, that's all. Just who's A and who's B. All right. That's it. Simple negotiation. It's over. All right. Here's what I want A to do. A to B. Just turn to B, A, and just count from 1 to 10 as fast as you can. Okay, great. A to B. Just go from A to J in the alphabet as fast as you can. Okay, now A to B. Just go A1, B2, C3, all the way through J as fast as you can. The hell's going on? Okay, that's awful. Awful. All right. So tell me whether you observed this in A. It took longer. They were less accurate, and you could see that it was requiring a lot more effort on their behalf, right? Okay, that is just proof. You've just proven to yourself that it is actually impossible for you to cognitively run 2 different processes simultaneously without you going back and forth between the letters and the numbers. So NASA puts it this way. When you quote-unquote multitask, it is inevitable that each individual task be slower and of lower quality. And 28% of our productive focus, that means a third of our day basically is flushed on the idea that we are multitasking. And in fact, you're not multitasking at all. You are simply switching. And switching, to frighten the hell out of you, makes you dumber than being stoned. Says CNN. So when you're stoned, your IQ goes down by 5 points.
When you try to multitask, your IQ goes down by 10. So most of you are walking through your day totally stoned. And you wonder why it's requiring more effort and it's less accurate and you're not getting the outcomes that you want. So you can physically and mentally multitask. You can walk and chew gum. You can drive and talk, right? You can do something physical and something mental at the same time, of course. But you cannot use the same part of the brain simultaneously. So you cannot listen to a conference call and read email. You can't do those things simultaneously. What you do is you listen to the conference call a little bit. I'm bored. I start reading email. And then every once in a while you go, I better listen to the conference call. You can't read email anymore. And then when you read email, you're not listening to the conference call. What you're doing is you're switching. And in each activity, your IQ has dropped dramatically. You cannot listen to a meeting and tweet or text or Facebook at the same time. When people encourage people to hashtag in the middle of a meeting, I'm like, there goes your audience. They're gone. Because as soon as they start tweeting, they've left the meeting. They're out of the room. They're in the stratosphere. And then they check back in, and they're not tweeting anymore. And then they tweet, and they're gone. And they're doing this thing all day. No wonder they can't concentrate, focus, or actually absorb what it is that's happening in the meeting. Attempting to do things at once essentially creates one new thing. Okay, so it's not two things happening simultaneously, it's one new thing. So for instance, it's not driving and dialing a phone. Like, okay, that doesn't seem so bad. It is actually driving while dialing a phone. That's a whole different deal, right? All of a sudden, your IQ for both dialing the phone and driving drops dramatically. Intense multitasking can produce stress. An adrenaline rush that, when prolonged, can damage cells from new memory. The more you multitask, the more you are actually destroying your memory. You're eating into the gray matter of your brain. And those who multitask are actually less efficient than those who focus on one project at a time. The time lost switching amongst tasks increases the complexity and the stress to perform the task. Just like Landon's executive colleague's observation, the American culture has said that we're being heroic if we're rushing around trying to multitask. But we are less efficient, more stressed, more overwhelmed, and our outcomes are diminished. You are actually giving yourself ADD. Medically, it has been proven that there's a new condition called acquired attention deficit disorder. People who become accustomed to a constant stimulation and feel bored in the absence of it. We are actually choosing, by our behavior, a state of being that most people consider to be an affliction, and they take medication to alleviate. That's what's happened in our culture. And we put lots of energy in avoiding the hard and difficult tasks, which is the reason why we love a lot of these multitasking distractions. It's not that we don't know what to do, it's that we don't do it. So let me give you some strategies to up in this idea of multitasking. Ready? This is going to end it for you. Single task. Just do one thing at a time. You will find this difficult when you start it, but you will also find it to be the most productive thing you could do. So there's an interesting story, Pete Rose. So whether you like his gambling habits, you can't argue his results. Still the number one hitter in the history of all baseball. Interesting story, 1979. He is in the locker room before a really important game. Some guy comes in and says, "Are you Pete Rose?" He says yes, and hands him divorce papers. Now he's supposed to go out and perform in this very important game. He goes out and hits 4 for 4. The next 29 at-bats, he gets 22 hits. His teammates are aghast. How do you do this? And he says, every pitch I am going to war over. The only thing I'm thinking about is going to war over this next pitch. He was famous for never giving up a pitch. No matter what his batting coaches would tell him, I'm never giving up a pitch. It was what's called complete and utter focus. Because look, when you got a 90-mile-an-hour rock coming at you, You have 400 milliseconds to make a decision. If there's any shadow of any thought of anything else whatsoever, you will fail. But if you are focused on one thing, you can perform. This is Bob McNair. He's a billionaire. He bought the NFL Texans and brought him to Houston, $750 million. He built Reliant Stadium, $325 million. The whole point is the guy's a baller, right? Okay? He's successful. A colleague of mine spent some time interviewing him, came away with a fantastic takeaway about how this guy does all these amazing things. Here's what it is. He has more projects on his desk than anyone in the city. More people clamoring to get his attention. And yet he carefully listened to every word I said. What's his secret? When he sits down to do business, he merely concentrates on one project at a time. Whatever he's chosen to do, regardless of how important he thinks it is, obviously it was important enough to schedule the time, he is totally, isolatedly focused. That's his great secret. Whatever he's doing at the moment, that's all he's doing. Have you ever been in a meeting with somebody and you're talking to them and you can see their eyes glaze over and you know that their mind is checking off to-do lists and doing grocery lists and the rest of that? Have you ever been listening to somebody in a meeting and you know, okay, my face is still pointed at them, so they probably won't realize that I've got all sorts of other problems that I'm solving over here, okay? That is not allowing yourself to focus on one thing at a time. So how do you do this, okay? How do you focus on one thing at a time? Let me give you some strategies. This one comes right out of Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz from way back yonder. Before you enter into any new conversation or work on any new project, what you want to do is clear the calculator. What happens is we go up throughout the day and we're making all these additions, all these additions, all these additions, and then we end up in a meeting, we have all these numbers running in our head. So before you enter a new conversation or work on a new project, you have to mentally clear the calculator. Bring it back to zero. Clean the desk. Make sure there's no remnant of other thoughts or ideas crowding your mind when you're supposed to be working on the one thing. That's one strategy. And I remind myself every time, okay, I just came for this meeting. I'm all wound up, worked up. Before I have this conversation with this person, just clear the calculator. I'm telling you, it's a great mental anchor. It will save you. Okay, I'm working on this project. Now it's time for me to work on this project. Okay, wait. Clear the calculator. Now I'm fresh for here. I can go. Here's another strategy, and this is the big one. One of the big ideas that came out of the training session I did for the Invisible Children people, she said this was the big idea for her. And that is, look, you got all these spinning plates. You have all these projects. You have all these things going on. You cannot manage them all at one time. But what happens is everybody's thinking about, and their brain is jumping between all sorts of things. And they're in a meeting, and their brain's still jumping on all these different things. Right? So what you want to do is, you're working on a problem, you got something you have to solve, take the problem and pack it up and put it in a box. And go, okay, right now I'm just going to take this problem, I'm going to put it on a shelf. It's there. Now, I'm not forgetting about it. I'm not letting it go. I know that it's still unsolved, but I'm going to put it in a box for now, and I'm going to put it up on a shelf. There it is. See, I have this crazy calendar myself. I mean, it's crazy. Somebody asked me, where are you going to be 3 weeks from now? I have no idea. Because I get up on Sunday and I look at my calendar, and then I just go. What I end up doing is, the planning I do is to say, okay, if I have a meeting here, here's when I need to prepare for it, and I put the preparation in a box, put it on a shelf. And I'm not preparing for that meeting or thinking about it or worried about it or have any anxiety about it until it's time to take that box off the shelf, put it on my desk, and work on it. And then when I'm done with it, pack it up, put it on the shelf, and it'll be there when the meeting comes up. Oh, there's the preparation for that. Take that off the shelf. That's how you can mentally work on one thing at a time. Because none of us have just one thing going on in our lives. You might have 100, 1,000, 10,000. You could have an expansive warehouse of shelving and still only have to work on one box at a time. If you pack up the other things you're working on, put it nice in a box, okay? Mentally, I know it's there, safe. I know when I need to pull it off. Now I can forget about it. So I could just work on this one. Is that helpful? So helpful for me. So helpful. It's like you just schedule when you think about it. You schedule when you think about things. Pack it up, put it on a shelf. When we immerse ourselves in a single task, we can access a phenomenon called flow. And that's when we get into that really productive, creative place. You don't have to convince yourself to do everything. You just have to convince yourself to do what? The next thing. That's it. Here's another big epiphany I'll give you. You don't have to be thinking about all the things you have to do to accomplish your goals this month. You don't have to think about all the things you need to do this week. You don't have to think about all the things you need to do today. The only thing, after you finish doing what you're doing, that you have to worry about is next. That's it. Not the whole continuum of the year's worth of goals, dreams, and ambitions, or month, or week, or day, just next. Focus on actions, not outcomes. Now, how can the guy who wrote the book on goals say, don't focus on your goals, just focus on actions? Because that's how you end up accomplishing your goals. If you go around thinking about your goals all day, no wonder you're so overwhelmed, stressed, and anxiety-ridden, and paralyzed to do anything. Here's what it's like. Most people look at their goals standing at the bottom of this very long, tall staircase. And at the top of the staircase is the achievement of their goal on December 31st. And they look up and they go, oh my God, this big, hairy, audacious goal. How am I possibly going to achieve that? Well, if you've written out a plan, in other words, you've got a staircase, stop looking at the top of the staircase. All you have to do is just look at the one step in front of you. That's the only thing you have to do. And you know what? When you do that, you're like, wow, that doesn't seem so tough. Look, okay. Oh, wow, that didn't take much effort, much energy, wasn't stressful. And then all you got to do now is what? Just look at the next step. Well, that's not that tough. I could do that. And then you get on top of that. And then what ends up happening as you take step after step after step, June, July, August, September, October, November, you'll get to November and go, okay, it's November 2nd, and I'm looking around, oh my God, that was my goal. I've way surpassed what I couldn't even see standing at the bottom of the staircase, and it's only November 2nd. And I've had no stress, and it's required very little effort all along the way. But what most people do is they try to mentally absorb and handle the whole staircase every step of the way. And they wonder why they don't take any steps at all. That one mental shift, change your life. And you'll realize that all this is not that difficult at all. If all you're doing is looking at the single step in front of you, doing that is not that difficult. And essentially, the accomplishment of any goal is nothing but the progressive accumulation or compound effect of steps taken over time. Okay? Simple as that. So I want to present you a challenge. See if you have the chutzpah to do it. Don't multitask for 1 week. Not a month, not the rest of your life. Hey, just try it for a week, okay? That means if you're on the phone with a phone call, you're on the phone. You're not looking at email, you're not perusing papers on your desk, you're not looking at magazines, you're on the phone. It's the only thing you're doing when you're on the phone. If you're in a meeting, be in the meeting. Phone's off, not vibrate. Phone's off, be in the meeting. Knock at the door, hold it off. Nope, I don't have time now, but let's schedule a time. Love to meet with you. Let's schedule it. Don't check your phone while driving. Don't go to the bathroom with it. Don't walk or be in the presence of another human being and look at your phone. Just 1 week. You could do it 1 week. Here, let me give you the results of my 1 week. Here was my experience. My stress level dropped dramatically. The frenetic energy dropped dramatically. I lost patience for things that were not a good use of time. Because I'd be in meetings before, and if it got stupid or bored, I'd just go and work on email. Or I was on a lame-ass conference call, I'd just start doing other things. Right? I lost patience when I couldn't do anything else. And I increased patience for the things that I found useful and enjoyable with a dramatic increase in creative thinking and ideation. One of the more productive weeks I've ever had. Most surprising, nothing was lost by not multitasking. I didn't miss anything. Nothing. So I just, from the top of the mountain, I come back to you and say, it's worth it. Give it a try. It's awesome up here. Take the challenge. Here's a key point that I want to give you here, wrapping up this last fourth piece of the productivity addictions. You can't get it all done. Stop trying. These time management programs that are even titled Getting It All Done is torturing you. It's impossible. It's endless. It's a vortex. Your inbox will never be empty. Your garage will never be cleaned, right? Don't even try, right? You can't get it all done. Eventually, you just got to let it go. Let it go. There's always more to do than anyone will ever get to. Stop trying to get it all done. Eventually, it all comes down to choices. You're in a sea of potential things to do. Ultimately, it comes down to the choices. Of course, there's a great book on helping you make those better choices, and I assumed everybody here has read it, so I'm not going to cover the concepts inside that book because you probably have already got them, and we're going to go deeper than just that. But if you need reinforcement about how the control center of your life are the choices that you make, there's a great place to find more information. Okay? Ultimately, productivity is an inside-out game. Not the other way around. That's what everybody thinks. It's all these distractions, all these people, all these commitments, all these obligations, and so forth. No. It's not outside in. It's inside. These are my boundaries. This is my agenda. This is what I do and don't tolerate. This is what I control and don't control. Out. And when you realize that shift and take control of the inside, all of a sudden the outside becomes finally abiding by the standards that you set. Finally, we get to the point of, okay, if you can unhook yourself from all these addictions that are preying and distracting and derailing and disrupting your progress, now we can start to design the life that you really want, to take you in the direction you really want to go. So designing your glorious life, finding your guiding beacon, discovering your true passion, and then strategic breakthroughs for going big. So let's start with designing your glorious life. The first thing you need to do is to figure out what a glorious life is for you. What is your definition of success? Your definition, not Webster's, not your parents', not society's, not your peers', not commercial marketing, but what truly is your definition of success. So I'll give you, for instance, of when this shift happened for me. So I talk about in The Compound Effect, Sam's on the Wharf there in Tiburon. There you can see in the corner is the blue house that I ended up getting, the great dream house, 4-level house. So I finally get the house, right? And the person that I want to be most proud is who? My dad. So I get the house. This place is amazing. Okay, so just to give you an idea, the skyline of San Francisco looks like it's reachable from the window. In that vantage point, the streets run right up and down, okay? And when the sun sets behind it, it looks like the streets on the horizon light up like fire. Like there's lava running down the streets. It's fantastic. And then it glitters off the windows over the East Bay. You can see Alcatraz. Here's Angel Island. And this is like the tip of Monaco right here, where the restaurant's on the wharf. And then below it, it's just over the Corinthian Yacht Club. And there's a certain time of the day where they do these little exercises and all the sailboats are out there. And then the fog kind of is along the horizon there. It's just magical. There's no better vista point on the planet. It's spectacular. So I get the house. I'm all excited. I go to the furniture mart in San Francisco one day and I buy a whole house full of furniture in one day, like $100,000 worth of furniture. I outfit the whole thing. And then I hire somebody I met at one of these cookery shops to come over and cook appetizers. And I had a bartender come over that would pop the champagne and serve, and I invited my dad and his wife to come over from the East Bay over the bridge to come and see my place for the first time, right? So I have it set up perfectly that they would arrive, we'd have a little chit-chat, and then I said to my dad, hey, come down, I want to show you my office. And my office was on the lower level. The whole floor was my office. Wall-to-wall, floor-to-ceiling was window. And I take him to the window, perfect time, sun setting. This whole scene is playing out. This is my moment. I've finally done it. I've arrived. He's here. He sees it. He looks up at the corner of the room and goes, oh, look, there's a water spot in the corner of the room. Right then, my heart broke at that moment. And it freed me. That was the moment I was liberated. Because at that moment, I knew that nothing I could do or achieve had anything to do with him whatsoever. That it wasn't about me, it was about him. And that was the moment when I decided, even though it was painful, I'm telling you, I'm so grateful for that moment because it freed me, that I decided I'm going to do what I want to do for me. For me, what I want to do, what I think is important, what I think makes me feel good, not what I think he'd want me to do and what he'd want me to achieve. So it was a crowning moment for me. Now, there's another time when I interviewed this fantastic lady, Maria Shriver. This is when she was the First Lady of California, and interviewed at the Beverly Hills Hilton. Now, this woman, you got to remember, she's a Kennedy, right? Her father was Sergeant Shriver. Her mother, it was this fantastic lady. Her father started Head Start and the Peace Corps. Mother started Special Olympics. At the kitchen table, the conversation was always about what you're going to do to be a great public servant, to change the world, to change the trajectory of humanity. Those were the conversations at the table. So I wanted to ask her the question, being from this great legacy, what is your definition of success? That was the question I asked her, thinking she's going to talk about this great vision for what she wants to do to succeed in this great lineage. She said, for a long time, I was really caught up in my family's legend, that I needed to go and do something grand, and important, and impressive. I finally got to the place in my life when I decided success for me is being there in the final days of my father's life and being there for him. For me, it's being a great daughter to an amazing mother. For me, it's being a fantastic mother to my kids. For me, it's being the kind of friend to my friends that I want in a friend myself. That's what I found is my definition of success. Not the answer I expected. In fact, when I drove home all the way from Beverly Hills back down here to San Diego, it really struck me. I mean, it had an effect. That night, I went home. I remember George's like, what's going on? I said, I don't know. I just want to sit outside. I just need to just think. And I took a journal and I just wrote. I said, what is the definition of success for me? Like, I've written the definition for success. I wrote the definition of Success Magazine. What is success in today's culture? It's the 5 pillars, right? Business, financial, relationships, health, and giving back. Those are the 5 pillars of success. Whole life success. That's what it is. I wrote the definition for the magazine. I never wrote the definition for me. And up until that period of my life, I was frustrated. Like, I'm meeting all these people who are running these big, giant companies and doing these great things in the world, and I'm finding they're not as intelligent as I thought they were. I could do this. I should be doing this. I need to do this. And I was all frustrated with myself, right? So I wrote down, what does it mean for me? What is success? And I wrote down this definition for myself of success. And then I read it. And the thing that struck me was, I'm living that life. 90% of everything on that list, I have right now. And so what I did is, number one, sunk into it. Released this idea of all these other things, which weren't on my list, but this is where I was being pulled all the time. And then I said, here's these 10 things that are disrupting my peace and my love for this process. And I went about fixing those 10% things, which I have, and really sinking into the other 90%. Game changer for me. I want to encourage you to figure that out for yourself. Who has chosen your goals? Now, you might not even be conscious of this, because many of the ideas and values that you've come up the ranks with were given to you without you even knowing it. They were programmed before you had conscious ability to vet and filter. So now look back at it with great honesty and say, who's chosen your goals? Is it society? Is it parents? Is it peers? Is it neighbors? Is it alumni? And let me give you a framework in which to ask yourself this question. Ask yourself, when will you be a success? Finish the end of these 3 sentences for yourself, okay? I'll be successful when, and finish that sentence. Honestly, not what you project, but how would you answer that question? I'll feel better about myself when, and the last, I'll be happy when. Write the answer, write the end of those 3 sentences. Do it now.
All right. Hey, quick question for you. You don't want to be doing your important work stoned, do you? No, of course not. So stop multitasking or switching. Just do one thing at a time. Don't give yourself acquired ADD. You are only hurting yourself and your productivity. Don't do it. So, as your homework assignment for this session, I want to encourage you to do two things. One, take the no multitasking challenge. Do it for a week. If you really want to kick butt, do it all the way up until our next session. And you just might be able to do it for good. So when you are on the phone, be on the phone. When you're in a meeting, be in the meeting. No checking texts, emails, or otherwise. If there's a knock at your office door, hold off and ask them to schedule a time. Don't check your phone while driving, going to the bathroom, walking, or in the presence of another human being that you are with. I'm testifying to you personally. Do it. It's worth it. You'll get your mind and your life back. It's awesome. Try it and tell us how it goes. Pop onto our private Facebook page and keep the dialogue going. Until next time, I wish you an insanely great day.
Insane Productivity was designed and delivered by Darren Hardy. Copyright Darren Hardy. All rights reserved. For more information about Darren Hardy, his books, programs, and success resources, or to hire him to speak at your conference or train your leadership team, visit darrenhardy.com. Insane Productivity was recorded and edited by Richard Del Maestro of Studio Del Maestro, specializing in the coaching, recording, and production of the spoken word for thought leaders. For more information, visit delmaestro.com.